think about that too. He was the forerunner of the Fred Meyer store because he was the first. He built a supermarket there. And he had all the canned goods, all the breads. He had a meat market. He's produce market. He sold hay, he sold grain, he sold feed, he sold seed, and everything else to the farmers around there. Then he had hardware store. We had nuts and bolts and 22 shells and knives and sickles to cut grass with, and it was really just a forerunner. I can still see it. It was just a forerunner of going into that gigantic Fred Meyer or the gigantic Walmart now, and it's interesting. In fact, I met his daughter was a friend of mine in high school, and she's down in Arizona. And so we used to go down there. We used to spend a little time with Lorraine, and we'd reminisce about the old days up here at Andrews Market. We used to haul. We used to get Andrews' truck. He had a 1.5-ton Ford truck, and we'd haul the tables from the old Century Ballroom, which was behind the Poodle Log. We'd take the tables and chairs over and put it in the gym at Fife to set up for junior, senior dances and things like that. And Andrew had that old Ford truck, and I chose to drive it one time, and it did not have the transmission in it. There's a name for it. It wasn't a speed transmission. You had to get the gear, the two gear, when you put the clutch in, you had to get the gears right to get a synchromesh. It was not a synchromesh transmission. So it was a Bearcat to drive for the first couple of miles. You had to use the clutch and getting that gear shift in the right place. And didn't have to drive too far, 1.5 miles, I think was our route there, but I can still remember driving that truck over there, and grind gears. But that was just part of the valley too, that there was things like that people were willing to loan to the schools to do particular things, and the schools reciprocated by, not terrorizing the markets and things like that. But everybody pitched in and gave things to the schools. The farmers gave things, and everybody did.
You mentioned the Century Ballroom. What were some of your memories of that?
Well, that was a big, huge dance hall. There were a couple of them up and down on Highway 99 in those days. And the Century got famous during the war because they had a lot of dances out there on Saturday and Sunday. So that place was full of soldiers and sailors and Marines and everybody else out there. And they had all the big name bands out there, like Harry James was out there, and Count Basie was out there, and Guy Lombardo was out there. Once in a while we'd get to go over there and get into the back door and walk into the place. I don't think they served alcohol. I think you could bring your own in if you wanted to, but I don't remember them serving alcohol. But it was just a big night, Saturday night, for all the local servicemen that came out of Fort Lewis and then clear out from the naval base at Bremerton, a place like that. Yeah, okay. It was just a big place, huge place.
All right. Let's see. What are your memories of Colonial Gardens? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
What do you remember about that?
Well, that was a place full of a co-op started by a bunch of Italian families to grow a truck garden. They had vegetable onions and carrots and things like that, potatoes, tomatoes, corn, things like that. And as kids, we used to go down there. The corn comes up out of the ground to come up with the sucker. You'd have to go and sucker the corn to get the stalk going up straight. And you'd weed carrots. And then in the fall, after the corn was harvested, then we'd go out there and cut the corn down and take that over to the farmer. And the farmer would feed that to his cows. So recycling in those days was prominent. The cows enjoyed that fresh corn, the fresh stalks and leaves and things like that. And so that was part of the Colonial Gardens. They had, once in a while, they'd invite us kids over there for dinner. And they had a huge, huge long table. And they had just plates and plates and plates of spaghetti, and there plates and plates of French bread. And all Italians are all speaking, Italian, and they're waving their arms and laughing and giggling and yelling at each other, talk loud to each other, not yelling, but talking loud to each other. Hey, And the first time I saw that, I thought, holy smokes. Then I got used to it. I thought, in fact, we had a family next door to us that was the Farah family, and they had two kids our age, my brother and I, my age, and Dorothy, or Loretta, the mother, invited us down one day for a Sunday dinner. She's gonna have all of her family out there. And I'd never met them before, but anyhow, she said, well, come down whenever you're ready in the afternoon. So we went down there, and they walked in the door, and there's about 15 Italians in there, all laughing and giggling and yelling at each other, talking loud, loud gyrations. And I thought, what in the world am I getting into? Do I have to get out of here before somebody gets hurt? But they were all just having a great fun, and they cooked rabbit and chicken and beef and 7 kinds of spaghetti, and again, big huge plates of spaghetti, and but that was fun. That was part of the Italian heritage. With a lot of Italians down there in those days. Most of them were in the gardening business. Were in truck gardens of some kind. The Swiss were the farmers. Swiss and Germans were the farmers. The Japanese were the truck gardeners and things like that, and a lot of berry farmers. I think they were just whoever felt like growing berries, raspberries, blackberries, or strawberries. They just started a lot of big gardens. A lot of rhubarb down there in those days too. Big rhubarb farms.
Very diverse community.
Yeah, it was.
Back then,
It was.
yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's for sure.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Did any other memories of any of the other farms you talked about? Maybe the dairy farms or some of the Japanese farms, or
Well, I can remember the dairy farms in the summertime. We used to go out and make hay with them, and I still feel the hay seeds coming down the back of my neck. You didn't have mechanical tools in those days. You had a mower and a rake that would rake things up into a row, and then you shocked it after that, put them in piles. And after you got it in piles, then you picked it up after dry. You picked it up and put it on a truck or a tractor trailer and haul it into the barn. And you lift that bale of hay over your head. All those seeds come down the back of your neck, and you were sweating and hot and everything else. You'd itch all over them. And as young kids, we didn't care. That was just fun.
right?
And they paid us a little bit of money or fed us a good lunch and things like that. So I had some good friends whose grandparents owned those dairies and did those dairies, and so we kind of followed that along. And they'd have us for lunch once in a while and things like that. Always good people. It was a lot of fun. They treated kids good as long as you did work, and didn't cause too much trouble. And they understood kids like to horse around a little bit, so they could handle that monkey business to a certain extent. But like I said, after you learn to drive down there in those fields and those old trucks, stick shift trucks, and didn't run very well, but you got them in and out of the field into the barn and got stuff unloaded and went for that.
Nice.
Good times.
Nice. What are your memories of the internment of the Japanese Americans there?
All I really remember is, the war started, and there was a lot of, press and worry and stuff about that. And then they were interned, and they just almost kind of left. Like I can remember, just it seemed like they just left in one day or a short time. And we didn't hear from them very much after that, but we didn't pay that much attention to them. Then when they came back, it was about the same way. They came back just kind of in a quiet time, and they came back into school again, came back into the community again, and there was nothing derogatory, going on that I don't remember anybody ever teasing a Japanese, kid that was in school with us, we hate you and things like that. I don't remember any of that kind of stuff at all. In fact, I told my sons one time, it was kind of ironical because we went to school with the kids, and they were great kids. They were good students and just nice to be with. And all of a sudden, when they left and went away, then in that period of time, then the war movies came out. And then you'd see the war movies come out, and they'd shoot down a Japanese airplane, and everybody, hi, hey, how happy we were doing that. And then all of a sudden they come back into our world again. That kind of taught me there's a balance between life, that things happen, something else happens, and something else happens, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a chain of nastiness because of that. You have to balance and think about things and listen to things and absorb what's going on. Keep a smile. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Keep a smile.
Yeah, I like that. What are your memories regarding does this name ring a bell? Annie Millison. She was maybe the town.
Yes.
She was an abortionist.
Yes.
So what do you remember hearing about her?
Everybody in the town, and I probably Tacoma too, knew that she was out there. She would come, we'd see her once in a while, maybe shopping at Andrews or something, but not see her that she wasn't that prevalent. The thing I remember is in those days we had a bus line coming out of Tacoma, and you had the Valley Forge service station sitting in a corner there where the Verizon store is. And the bus would come out, a young girl would get off the bus, walk down 70th and walk down to 20th to where Anna Millison was. You didn't always see the same person, but every once in a while I'd see another one standing in front of the poodle log waiting for a bus to go back into town. So for the most part, well, I shouldn't say the most part, for some of them they transported themselves out to see Anna, and then they transported themselves back into town after they were taken care of by her. And there was never any, as far as I know, any excitement or any protests or anything else. It was just over there and like this.
Yeah, right.
Ignore it.
Yeah.
Ignore it.
She just kind of kept to herself, did her business.
Kept herself, did it, and I don't remember her ever getting involved. I don't remember any raids out there to see. In those days too, one of the things we didn't have instant communication like they have now. Mm-hmm. So if something could have happened, like now, something happens down in Fife, that's on that internet, that quick. Mm-hmm. In those days, something happened on Anna Milson's, you probably wouldn't hear about it for 3 weeks or a month, because it would just, some people next door might know, and then maybe somebody else. But that's one of the good things and bad things, I guess, about this system we have nowadays. It's instant. Yeah. You know what when something happens.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world out there.
Yeah. All right. What are some of the most notable memories you have of living and or growing up in Fife? What are some advanced activities or other businesses that really readily come to your mind that we haven't kind of already discussed?
Well, I think it was the advantage of staying in a place like I did. I lived there for such a long time. We saw a lot of things. I think a lot of people, they're in an area for a couple of years and they're gone. They're in an area for a couple of years and they're gone there. And I stayed there, so I got to meet a lot of different people. Saw a lot of different businesses start up down there in Fife. Especially with your kids, and all of a sudden, one couple of kids, their dad, a little hamburger stand down there. I think they had a service station too, so I decided to sell hamburgers at the same time. It never got very far, but they made a little money off it and survived, and that part of those days was survival too. You didn't have access to an airplane to fly out of town every time you want to. A lot of families only had one car, so that meant if Dad was gone with the car, everybody was home till he got back. So there was more of a cohesive family life at that time, I think, and cohesive neighbors. Neighbors helped each other whenever they could. It was just, I just remember just meeting over the years a lot of different people. That some of them impacted your life, and some of them just kind of, nice to meet them and don't remember too much about them. But the whole area changed. There was a bunch of florists down there at that time, and Metke's florist up in Milton, and Fife florist was down on Old 99, and there was another one I can't remember. Not Metke, Benteen's florist was way down at the end of the foot of the hill there on 54th Avenue. And they were, well-known people, and they kind of served the local area, And nowadays, you can, if you want to get flowers, you can drive clear to the South Center if you want to, or clear to Olympia if you want to, things like that. Those in the old days, you didn't do that. You went down to the local shop, bought your posies and whatever you had there.
All right. What would you most want people to know about what Fife was like when you were young, and what is it that you miss most about what Fife was like back then?
Well, that's hard to say. Well, Fife, for one thing, was just a great community. There was a lot of service clubs in those days. That, again, Lions Club, Kiwanis Club, Active Club, a lot of church socials. Uh, Fife grew. They when we were down there, that was pretty much everybody was, part of your own little area. And then all of a sudden, it go a little bit, and they decided they had to wanted a fire department, so they developed a volunteer fire department, which again brought a bunch of people in that, had worked together and gone to school together and socialized together. So they got that fire department going, and that, as you can see, that has grown to what it is now. A lot of things that the schools, grew tremendously. The businesses. Now I look back and see where all the warehouses were sitting on the time when I would drive past, when I was 49, I'd drive, there were cows on both sides of the road. Now there are warehouses on both sides of the road. And I think, no, goodness sakes, what's going on there? But that's just part of progress. You've got to balance that progress. What you thought, well, that was the way I saw it, that's the way I want it to be till the cows come home, but it didn't work that way. You got to balance what's happening with all that down there. Farmers are gone, per se, and a lot of memories of those different farmers, and we get together sometimes with different people that are my age and younger. You remember so and so, remember so and so, remember so and so, and there was all, oh yeah, he married so and so, she married so and so and so. And that happened a lot too. There was a lot of families that had lived there for a while, and they married, and then this one went over and married on this side, and so pretty soon you had a whole network of people that were kind of. You talk, well, oh yeah, she's my cousin. Oh yeah, she's my niece. I said sometimes you have to be careful what you say, know who you say it to, because you might find it. That's my Uncle Louie you're talking about there. You don't want to say too much, but they were all good people. There wasn't enough gossip down there to mount the hill of beans, as far as I could remember. It was just a good, fun place to be. Fun place to be.
Well,
Milton's the same way. Milton was another area that, was a bailiwick or a cup, but we all got together at different times for different functions. Milton got to become a city, got the fire department, and like Fife did, got a fire department, became a city, and so it's a progress of growth.